Welcome back to our full reading of I Am Omnipresence. This is a practical journey, so we'll get through this chapter and break up into our discussion groups so that we can go even deeper. But we will take this very deliberately and very slowly. So have your journals handy. This is the work that you do. We're responsible only for the correction, to see aright, to live aright, to know perfect and permanent peace and fulfillment. So let us get into this chapter. This is chapter 3. What is omnipresence really? Now, you might like to listen to this with soft eyes and soft ears, but deeply reflective, looking within where truth is found, where I is already fully established. These words aren't meant to soothe or placate you. No one else can make the recognition of what I is but you. And so that's why we're here to be nothing but practical. God is everywhere, spirit is in all things, consciousness is all there is. Phrases like these are familiar, even comforting, but for most people they remain slogans, not lived reality, and that's the only issue we face in life. Live reality. We can't know about something and not experience it if we truly know. And that's the point. When we know truth, we live it, we experience it. The light of the world isn't a lovely theory, it's the fact of reality. It's normal and natural to have everything, to be fulfilled. So, this chapter is not about recognizing anything other than omnipresence as concrete, not theory, and undeniable as fact, not as an idea about a far off God, but as the very fact of your own being right here, right now, not becoming, not some place or time, but what is that which is. So we'll explore what omni really means and then what it forbids, what it denies, what it rules out, why omnipresence leaves no room for a second reality, how time, past, future, is incompatible with true omnipresence, how to sense omnipresence directly as awareness itself. And this is key for you to know. We're not interested in theory. We're not interested in what someone else knows. We're not interested in man whose breath is in his nostrils, but to make the revelation of myself for myself. That was the simple demonstration of the way showers that have come before, including the one we're all quite familiar with, Christ Jesus. He had nothing we don't have. That's what he was teaching us. We're just looking where what he was pointing to is found. And then we'll look at simple practices to recognize this in the midst of living. Now, this is not a practice of finding something I don't already have. It's about the recognition of what I already am and therefore what I already have. So let's look at a definition of omnipresence, what omni actually means, the synonyms of omnipresence. We start with something deceptively simple, so don't overthink it. Whilst we might have cultivated this capacity to analyze and therefore get into analysis paralysis, value the valueless, which is what we've done if we value thinking. Don't overthink this. It's obvious what it is, and that which is all, entire, complete, infinite, and eternal is right here. I've just habituated a way of not seeing, but I can see. Omni means all, everywhere, without exception. All. Let's rest with that for a minute. All. What apart from all is there? So, omnipresence equals present everywhere with no outside. Omni, in terms of omniscient, equals knowing all with no unknown. Infinite intelligence that can only act intelligently and just doesn't have the capacity to be anything other than intelligent. Omnipotent equals all power with no rival. We might also add omni-action, the only thing going on, and there isn't anything else going on. These words are often used in sermons, books, or affirmations, but rarely followed to their logical conclusion. We're simply being invited and asked to look for ourselves. No one has any special capacity to know truth that someone else doesn't. But what we tend not to do is actually follow things through to their logical conclusion. So let's follow omnipresence carefully. If something is truly omnipresent, there is nowhere it is not. No gap, no edge, no location where something else instead of it exists. And this already has enormous implications. There cannot be omnipresence and a separate independent world. There cannot be omnipresence and a separate independent you. That which is all must, by definition, include me, include you, include all. There cannot be omnipresence and a separate independent something else. We might even call that something else evil. Because omnipresence is real, separation cannot be. So we can recognize right now that duality isn't a thing that we overcome. It never was. It isn't anything. That's the trick. Just buying an erroneous assumption and living from it, which is what we call humanity. But when we see, right, all the problems of humanity are absolutely dissolved and therefore resolved, and we can get on with truly living the life that our hearts yearn for because it's what's real. Our hearts know what's real. And I'm not talking about a heart that beats in a body. There's no such thing as the one thing going on, which is the one substance that has been called God or life or existence or consciousness, the I awareness or soul or spirit, perhaps. If omnipresence isn't real, then nothing is. If separation is real, omnipresence is just a poetic word. Most spiritual teachings try to keep both. God is everywhere and you are a distinct being with a real outside world to face. So this chapter is about gently but rigorously letting that double think go. Simply because we follow through. We follow through to the logical conclusion, the facts of life. And when we're living in alignment with how life works, we're no longer trying to swim upstream, are we, against the current and against the tide? We're in the flow. And what do we know about the flow? The zone, if you will. Everything exists in the zone. And the zone is in my hands, nearer than breath, closer than hands and feet, so to speak. There's no room for a second reality. So think of the usual spiritual map. Up there is God's spirit and source. Down here is me, world and matter. And between, there exists a gap to be bridged by practice, devotion, understanding, something that this character needs to do. Now hold that picture next to the statement of fact that God is all, that omnipresence is, that consciousness is all. Remember, we're not here to pick up terminology. We're not interested in what the finger is pointing, what the finger is, but what it's pointing to, rather. So there's not a dictionary that's right and one that's wrong. But we can recognize that both of these can't be literally true. So remember, this book is an invitation for you to see for yourself, to know for yourself, and no one can do this for you. If it was the case that someone could actually help you or heal you, it would have been done by now. In fact, the master way shower known as Christ Jesus disappeared seemingly out of you in order for us to meet him where reality is, to meet that one self where I is, to simply make the recognition that he made. But if he hung around, we would have all depended on someone else. And that's the point. Don't look to man whose breath is in his nostrils. Don't fall for the idea that there's someone special or ordained who has something you don't, who could have more than you, who has less than you. It's not possible. It's not true. You can't help but see if you look what's being pointed to. You stand to make the greatest discovery of life. I am that I am and live as one in perfect fulfillment. So let's do the work that reveals what actually is right here, right now, and sets me into the freedom that doesn't even contain a notion of an opposite called bondage, because there never was any. Bondage is the game of believing myself to be something that I'm not. It's just a game of pretend. It's not anything. If God is all, there is no down here that is not already God. There is no me apart from that all. There is no world running on its own, with God occasionally intervening or even interested. God is no lover of persons. Don't we recall that? That's not because he's a big meanie. But if we understand that God is all, consciousness is all, remember the words don't matter here, then there isn't anything else to love. There isn't anything else to care for or care about as such, is there? You cannot honestly say God is infinite mind, the only presence and power, and then add, plus there is me, a separate human mind, ignorance, evil, other, and matter as substantial realities in their own right. If anything exists outside or beside the infinite was misnamed. Omnipresence plus something else is not omnipresence. This isn't wordplay. This isn't a riddle. This isn't a trick. We can look and see what has always actually been right here. And it's obvious when we look, but because I didn't look, I didn't see it. Simple as that. It is the dismantling of a centuries old compromise we've all inherited, using infinite sounding words while secretly maintaining a dualistic, a two world model. One spiritual and divine, and the other, one material and human. That would be two. Reality, because it is genuinely one, does not accommodate that split. So, what we're really looking for is how is it that I'm accommodating this split? How is it that I am accepting duality whilst saying I want to know the truth and live happy and live abundant and live fulfilled and be perfectly harmonious and imperturbably peaceful? We can see when we look. And when we do see, we don't harbor an illusion any longer. And therefore, the absolute reveals itself right where it's always been, here as I am. Heaven is here as I am. I just see a world that I wouldn't necessarily call heaven because there's all these filtration going on, misperception, born from misidentification, born from that two think model, that dualistic model, omnipresence and the end of over there. Most people imagine God, omnipresence, truth, consciousness, as being somewhere higher, deeper, or subtler, something to move toward, something to get closer to over time. Can you see how you might have bought into that so that you can be aligned in the straight, narrow way of the absolute? Because there is only one way, isn't there? We've been told this since antiquity. There is no other way to come home but through I. And if we try it, it's just like banging your head on a brick wall. You just get a headache, and you don't need to have any more headaches. That picture immediately denies omnipresence when we say, I'm not there yet. If God is over there, he's not here. If I can move closer, I must be further away now. If one day I'll be in God's presence, then God's presence is not fully here now. Can you see that trick playing? Remember that belief is no thing. The truth doesn't require belief. It's no lover of persons. It doesn't require an opinion. It's not a denomination. It's not a religious movement. We're just talking about the facts of life here. It's the least woo-woo conversation we could actually have. But if omnipresence is an honest appraisal of reality, there is nowhere closer to it than here, because it is here, there, and everywhere. There is no time when it will be more present than now. There is no direction to travel to arrive inside it from somewhere else. You do not move toward omnipresence, you wake up as omnipresence. Omnipresence in time, why past and future don't fit. Time is the sense before now, which we often call the past, after now, which we refer to as the future. Your mind is almost always busy with one or the other, regretting, remembering, replaying. Well, that all stems from simply false identification. And anything that stems from something false isn't anything at all, is it? Just like a dream isn't really anything. That's why duality is often referred to as a dream state. It's not anything. When you wake up to the truth, there is no other thing. The dream is done. Just like when you wake up in the morning from your nighttime sleep, you're not plagued by the dreams you had the night before, as a rule. But notice, you never actually leave now. This is so obvious. You've actually always known this. You actually do know the infinite self that you are. It's just that you've been playing with ideas of what you are not that seem to cover that. It's right here where I am. It's not somewhere else. We've just played a character role to such a compelling degree that truly we don't need an Academy Awards night. It's a daily award given. And you've all earned it. We've all earned it. But what you really are can never be touched. Pretending to be something you're not can't interfere with what you really are, can it? You only think about past and future from now. Even yesterday appears as a thought image now. Even tomorrow appears as a thought image now. Omnipresence must also describe this timeless now. The one place that never moves, the one moment that does not begin or end. If we're really speaking to the truth here, a more accurate name rather than the one you supposedly were christened with or given at birth is now. My name is not Sally, it's now. That really takes us out of this personal and into the impersonal fact of reality. No one's holding back heaven from you. It's right here now, as I am. The one place that never moves, the one moment that does not begin or end. Past and future are labels within this now. So when you say, one day I will reach God, you are imagining time is more real than the timeless. Yourself as a traveler moving through it toward omnipresence. Because omnipresence necessarily encompasses now, the only place where God can ever be met is here, before any story of your past or of your future. Let's remember to keep our questions for our breakout rooms and we can really go deeper. For now, reflect, make notes. If you're watching the replay, pause, and then you can raise it in our next sessions with your mentors. Because omnipresent necessarily encompasses now, the only place where God can ever be met is here. Where truth can ever be met is here. Where the law of life, the infinite self can be met is here. Before any story of your past or future. Direct introduction, omnipresence as awareness. So far this may still sound abstract. Let's make it direct and experiential. Right now you can verify for yourself the following, and we'll get into these, and this is all we're here to do. We don't need to fall for the whole guru system anymore that someone can tell me about what I am. No, no one has that power. That power doesn't exist because you already are the omniness that is all of life. Let's be clear. You can, if you're reading this book, see these words, visual appearance, hear surrounding sounds, feel bodily sensations, notice thoughts. All of that, sight, sound, sensation, thoughts, is appearing. Where? Not in your head as a concept. Head is also an idea you see or feel, something you can be aware of. In your direct experience, everything appears in one open field of knowing. And you can call this field whatever name you want. It's not important. This is not a theology or a philosophy. You can call it awareness, consciousness, presence, the space of I am, God, life, existence. So try this. Hear the words. Notice the words on the page. Notice the feeling of your body. Notice any background sounds. Then ask, not as a theory, but as a felt experiential inquiry. What is it that is aware of all this? You cannot see awareness as an object, but you know something is aware. Without it, experience would not appear. Now look for the edge of this awareness. Does it stop at any point? Does it stop at your skin? Does it end at the walls of the room? Is there a line where awareness fades into non-awareness? This is how you recognize the infinite self. You make the greatest discovery of what I am. That's why we've been told to know thyself, know thyself. And you know the Holy Grail. You can't find any borders or boundaries, can you? Anything you can point to as a boundary is itself an appearance in awareness. This means awareness has no felt boundary. It is experientially omnipresence and omnipresent to everything that appears. Awareness is the omnipresence. This awareness is not an idea about God. It is the living fact always here. And the key shift is this: you are not a little thing inside awareness, you are awareness itself. So, what we have are some practices that follow here, and I want to just speak to the next part that we can join together to do, and that is the end of a distant God. But I encourage you to really get involved in the practices. This book is laid out in a fashion where you can do this very precisely with clarity you've never likely seen before, with support that's pointing you to make the discovery you can't fail to see. You cannot fail to know what you are because it's what you are. Genuine spiritual journeying, we might say, which is not accurate really, is foolproof. It doesn't make a promise of a future revelation, but of what is. And therefore, of course, you can make it. The end of a distant God. Once you begin to taste omnipresence as your own awareness, the idea of a distant God starts to feel odd. Ask, where is the God I imagined out there? Other than as a thought image in this awareness, can I find him? This is really where we're learning to follow the thread, follow the recognitions all the way through to the conclusion that is beyond doubt. And therefore, we're not mired by doubt through direct experience. You may find what you used to call God, truth, or reality is not a being above or beyond. It is the very knowing being in which your entire sense of self and world appears. This does not make God smaller. It reveals that what you are is not smaller than you thought. You have not brought God down to your level. You are seeing that your deepest I was never at a different level. This is the revelation to be embodied, to live as I really am. So we'll break out room now and get into the summary as well as the reflection questions that come with every single chapter so that you can get into that rock solid terrain of reality, the foundation that cannot be shaken or stirred or rattled, that has nothing to do with the changing, shifting sands of time. And I'll join you again for the next chapter. See you then.